Welcome back to the Law News Network. My name is Stephanie L. Willis, and I'll be your host until the 11 o'clock hour. We just saw the recorded interview of Luis Toledo from the October the 24th of 2013 interview, in which Sergeant Pagliardi, I believe his name is pronounced, interviewed him and once again asked him to describe the events that occurred on the night in which Yesenia and her two children, Michael, or as Luis Toledo likes to call him, Elijah, and Talia were allegedly murdered. When I say allegedly, because the bodies have not yet been found at this point, and Luis Toledo is charged with the murders of these individuals. First-degree murder for both Talia and Michael, and second-degree murder for Yesenia. We have with us today, and you guys are all lucky to have her with us today, is Cathy Russon. Cathy, thank you so much for being with us today. How are you?
Good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm doing great.
Good. Glad to hear that. Now, let's talk a little bit about this interview. Why do you think this Sergeant Pagliardi asked for Luis Toledo to relay the incidents, or what happened, the details as to what occurred on that night? What do you think it does?
Well, obviously that's what they were trying to get at. This was day two of the police interview. They interviewed him, I believe, 4 days in a row. And he was arrested on the 23rd. The morning of the 23rd is when the victims were reported missing. He was arrested for the domestic violence incident that happened the day before at his wife's work, where he allegedly slapped her. We have the 911 call from that we have played before, that he confronts her and her lover and all of that. So on the 23rd, when her mom reports them missing, the police are at the house, and Toledo shows back up, and they are able to arrest him then. So that's why we see him in jail guard. So we saw an interview last week on the 23rd that day where he denies everything.
Right.
Doesn't know anything, doesn't know where anybody is. Now this is the 24th, the next day, and he breaks down and all of a sudden starts just spewing out everything that he says happened. And I'm calling liar, liar, pants on fire, because I'm not buying what he's selling about the neighbor, his buddy, Tyshawn Jackson, that lives next door, kills the kids with an axe. It's so unbelievable to me that this guy, who we did see testify, that this guy would do that. Why would he kill an 8 and 9-year-old? And Toledo tells the police in the interview that he did it because he claims he was there, that Jackson was there with him when him and his wife were fighting, and that he accidentally killed her with a punch, okay? And Jackson was scared because he was on probation. So he was scared of that. So he's scared that somebody else killed somebody in his presence. He's on probation, so he decides to murder 2 little kids.
Right.
Not buying it, no.
Right, and I have to agree with you. I'm not buying it either. And I'm just, when I'm hearing this recorded interview, I can't help but think of Tyshawn Jackson's, when he testified last week. He was so emotional on the stand when he was talking about both Michael and Talia that it just seems so out of the ordinary for him to have done something like that. He appears to be very organic, very genuine while testifying during the trial. And I don't know, that it just doesn't add up to me. And we know that Luis is a liar. I think that he's a liar, especially due to the fact that we have him in one recorded interview on one day stating that he knows nothing about the situation, and the next day just to provide a whole bunch of information. The detailing that he provided was just so on point. He named, even to the fact as to how each of the bodies were brought into the trunk. He stated Yesenia was brought in first, and then Talia was brought in. I believe Michael was brought in next, and then Talia was brought in last. And then the axe was placed in between Yesenia and Talia. All of these details. What are you thinking about this?
Look, I think the viewers in our chat room while this was playing were saying that they believe that every detail he was given was correct, but replaced to Tyshawn Jackson with Toledo.
Right.
That that's actually what happened, but Toledo did it all. Now, what Jackson testified to was he just gets a call from Toledo early in the morning, like 6 a.m.,
right,
and says, "Hey, I need you to follow me in my car. I've got to go take my wife's car somewhere. That's what Jackson says, how his involvement started. And then he follows him, and then he sees him cleaning the wife's car, and Toledo gets back in the car. They drive back, and Toledo says, I just snapped. And then Jackson's freaked out. Okay,
right.
That's the gist of Jackson's testimony. Toledo tells this story where it ends after Jackson goes and drives the bodies off and goes and hides them and buries them and puts them somewhere, and he comes back, and then they follow each other in the cars. So Toledo has the story end where Jackson has it beginning, which is interesting. Now remember, he had some time to come up with this. He had sat all day the first day lying about everything, saying he didn't know anything, and now this is the next day. And he's not a stupid man, and he's been around, and he's been in the system.
Right, he has, and as we know that he allegedly was a member of the Latin Kings, so which is a gang that most individuals know. They have done some things. I'm not going to even get into it, but we know that there have been alleged murders tied to the Latin Kings, so we know that if he has been through something like this in the past, he would know exactly what to do, especially with the detailing that he provided as to how he put the bodies inside of the trunk, what cleaning agents he used, what he used, especially the fact that he talked about placing the plastic on the car seat. What did you think about that, Cathy?
I mean, just everything. Look, I believe firmly that this is what happened, and this is how it happened, minus the neighbor's presence. That's how I believe this happened. I believe that he got in a fight with his wife because he found out she had an affair, and I believe that got volatile, and that he probably did end up just punching her or whatever. And this is why he's not charged with premeditated murder, by the way, because also police believe that the story was the way it was, and that's why it's second degree. I believe the children woke up because this probably happened in the middle of the night, and the children heard something and came out, and then he had to get rid of them. Now, what the theory around people watching this trial have about why he needs to admit to killing the wife and not the kids is being a member of the Latin Kings. You don't kill children.
Right.
I guess it's totally fine to kill your wife. I don't know. But you don't kill children. And so he's had to, get away from that part of it. That's this is all theory, but...
Right. So, I mean, I think especially due to the fact that the way that he breaks down when talking about the children, it seems to me that we saw him break down and become emotional when he began talking about Yesenia Suarez, but once he begins to talk about the children, he has to stop. He becomes so emotional that he tells the detectives, or the sergeant in this case, that he can't continue, that he does not want to talk about the children anymore. But I think that he also stated during the recorded interview that after he heard the loud bumping noise in the background, he ran into the bathroom, and thereafter, held both Michael and Talia as they died in his arms, and he became so emotional when talking about exactly how they passed away. I mean, I think that he provided some details in there that it makes it a little hard for me to believe that Tyshawn Jackson was the one that did it. I don't know. I
mean, absolutely. I mean, look, I can, say, oh, he's a liar, pants on fire, talk like that. But we got to remember how horrific this is. How absolutely horrific, how these children died. Even if part of what he's saying is true about how they died, is so horrifying. And you have to remember the grandmother sits in that courtroom every day.
Right.
And it's just, I can't imagine. And he gives detail about holding the kids after. So did that really happen? Did he kill the kids and then regret it? Did he, who knows? I don't know. But I'm going back to laying the whole blame of the kids on Tyshawn Jackson, who, what is in his past that says he would kill two innocent little children, which, by the way, he has no connection to.
Right.
He lives next door, and he gets rides with Toledo to barber school.
Right.
That's their connection. It's not like, he's his ride or die, that they have been buddies since childhood. Something like that, maybe. But for this guy, it hasn't been like that with Toledo, and now he's going to kill two kids. I just don't buy it.
I'm not buying it either. The fact that we have Tyshawn Jackson, and Tyshawn Jackson's story just seems more believable to me. As I said previously, while he testified, he just seemed very genuine, very organic. He did not, and we all know that when someone is fibbing or not telling the truth, they seem to provide a little bit more detail than is necessary. That's something that we all have learned through either watching trials or being in the courtrooms ourselves. Individuals who like to exaggerate the truth or just like to provide a great deal amount of detail most of the time aren't providing exactly the most honest testimony, we'll say. But in this case, I think that you're absolutely right. I do believe that he provided the details as to exactly what happened on that night, but it was actually him, the one that was doing it, and not Tyshawn Jackson. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I believe that too. I believe that he went and disposed of the 3 bodies, came back, and then got Tyshawn Jackson because he needed to get rid of some stuff, drop the car off, clean the car out a little bit, and he needed a second person to follow him in his car. So I don't know, we can all, this is my opinion. This is my opinion from what I see, from the evidence I've seen and from the testimony I've heard. That's how I believe it went down.
Now, from what we know, I do know that the judge has decided that he would allow the portion of the recorded interview in which I believe Luis Toledo allegedly tried to commit suicide. Now, once the jury gets their hands on this, do you think that it's more prejudicial for the jury to see this? And I know that the judge already agreed to allowing this portion of the interview in, but do you think that it's prejudicial and the jury may just see this and just say, that's it, I think that he did it?
Well, it's definitely damning.
Right.
Okay, so, and we have played this because it was played in court without the jury,
right,
so the judge could decide what to allow. So we have that, and we've been replaying it for the viewers. And you see Toledo leave the interview room, and because he says he needs to use the bathroom, and then off camera we hear everything that happens. And he apparently goes in the bathroom and locks himself in, and then there's slamming and all this, and they said he broke a mirror in there and tried to cut himself, or he did cut himself in the bathroom. So when an inmate attempts suicide, that a lot of people go right to that's guilt. And so that is very prejudicial that he's guilty of something. However, in this case, we do know that Toledo admitted to killing his wife, and he admitted to being there while these 2 little kids were killed, right?
Right.
So, that's evidence enough that you'd want to commit suicide thinking your life is just over now. So I do, I believe it was the right call for the judge to allow it in.
I have to tend to disagree with you there, only because I just don't see, and I understand that the prosecutor's argument in bringing it in. I don't see how the jury could look at that and it not be prejudicial. I understand the probative value of watching the interview, but I just can't get past the jury seeing this and not thinking that that's it. That's guilt right there. This is an admission of guilt on his part by attempting to commit suicide. And this is something that we've seen previously in prior cases that we've covered on the LawNewz network as well, in which individuals had committed suicide, and there were times where the judge let it in, and there were times where the judge did not let it in. So we'll see how the jury then sees how this recorded interview will come to play, I guess, at the end of the day. We know that we're going to, I believe, continue with testimony or the recorded interview. So we know at some point that the judge, we are going to get to see this alleged suicide attempt by Luis Toledo. I also heard that we're probably going to hear back from from Yesenia Suarez, Kevin Dredden. I believe that he's supposed to come back to have another to come back for more testimony. Is that correct?
Tyshawn Jackson.
Oh, Tyshawn. Okay, I'm sorry.
The neighbor that Toledo says killed the kids. Right. They're calling him back in their case in chief. The judge had to get on the phone with him last week in the morning, and we heard that call because Jackson is going out of town this week to work.
Right.
And the judge said, look, you're under subpoena. Can I call your boss? What can I do for you? Because you are coming back. So that's how we know that Jackson is being called by the defense. And the state expects to rest by end of day tomorrow, maybe early morning Wednesday. So I'm thinking we'll see Jackson on Wednesday.
And so we know that if a guilty verdict is found for first-degree murder, we know that the death penalty phase of the trial will then begin next week. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes. The judge went over scheduling. He'd like the closing arguments to happen sometime Thursday and the jury to get the case this Friday. This is all tentative.
Right.
And if they come back with a guilty, then he wants to start the penalty phase Tuesday or Wednesday of next week.
Okay. Well, Cathy, thank you so much for being with us today. What we're going to do is we're going to just throw back to a clip just to allow our viewers just to obtain some more information about the recorded interview. So thank you so much. And when we get back to our next break, we'd love to have you on again.
Okay. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you.